Okay, all right, let's call the June meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. Motion to approve last month's minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Privilege of the floor. Anybody here for privilege of the floor? Once again, privilege of the floor, anybody? Okay, if not, we'll close privilege of the floor. All right, number one, proposed resolution, authorize acceptance of 2024 Crimes Against Revenue Program, CARP funds. This is the district attorney or his representative.
Good afternoon, committee. Madeline Contiguglia for the District Attorney's Office. So the resolution that we have before you is to authorize the acceptance of the 2024 Crimes Against Revenue Program, CARP for short. It's a grant that we've received for many years that is assists us in provides funding to assist us in prosecution of revenue crimes in Chautauqua County. The funds pay for a portion of an ADA salary that's designated to work on CARP cases and a part-time senior investigator that's assigned to work on CARP cases. The amount is $65,000. It's been included in our 2024 budget for this year, so there's no amendments that are necessary. The program runs from January 1st of this year through December 31st of this year.
Okay, committee questions of Maddie? Maddie, did you have- okay. Maddie, I just one question. Crimes against revenue, are you going after businesses that don't pay sales taxes?
Yeah,
Can you give me
it's a wide range of types of crimes, but it does include, people that aren't paying income tax or sales tax,
Okay.
businesses that aren't paying sales tax. Right now, we have a lot of cases involving untaxed cigarettes. So people are going to the reservation, purchasing cigarettes, and then coming back into the county and selling them to just people on the street. So we have a lot of cases right now that involves that type of offense. We also have a few investigations on untaxed marijuana sales as well.
Okay. And I think we'll get to that later this afternoon. Okay, committee, any other questions of Maddie? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks,
Thank
Maddie. Okay, next we're going to take proposed resolutions 7 through 10 out of order. Could I have a motion to do so?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, proposed resolution, Emergency Services 2024 Budget Amendment, Fiscal Year 2020, Technical Rescue and Urban Search and Rescue Grant. Nolan Bonnie, nice to see you.
Yeah, Noel Gutman, Director, Emergency Services.
Bonnie Peters, Principal Account Clerk, Emergency Services. Our tech rescue grant, a couple of things happened with this tech rescue grant. We had put money, $10,000, in to cover a backfill for Matt Slavin from the city of Dunkirk so he could attend a tech rescue training. When that information came back from the city, it was $2,453, giving us $7,497 that was not spent. When we talked with Homeland Security, they had said that money, that's what we had said it was for, and they weren't going to allow us to amend it to something else. But in doing so, we also had $6,806. Part of it was an underspend, And part of it was supplies that we had purchased that when we submitted to Homeland Security, they did not felt into the category that we had originally put them in. So they would not reimburse us that money. We did put the revenue for 23 in as an accrual. And then in the end, what happened when we submitted it,
Bonnie, just a question. Are you addressing the law enforcement technology program fiscal year 2024, 2025?
No.
we would be number 7, Mr. Chairman, the technical rescue and urban search and rescue
Yes, okay,
grant.
yes, okay, I'm sorry. Thanks.
So then, when we submitted it back to our rep at Homeland Security, he said, you know what, I kind of like you guys, we'll give you a break and we'll allow you to go back and resubmit for that $14,303, which is the combination of the money that we did not need to give the city of Dunkirk and the money for supplies that they originally said were not within the realms of the grant. So we did submit that. So that's what you have before you. We are asking to increase our .2 appropriations, the $14,303, which includes additional revenue from Homeland Security, $7,497, and $6,806, which we had already accrued that $6,800 as revenue. So we would need to go ahead and spend this, which they have already agreed to. They will give us that $14,303. If we have, they have agreed for shoring equipment. So we are asking for $14,303 into our .2s, an increase in revenue of $7,497 from Homeland Security. We already had the revenue accrued of $6,806. So we would need to have an additional $6,806 to be able to spend to come to that $14,303.
Okay, committee questions of Bonnie or Noel on this resolution?
And because they like you.
And because they like me.
Nice.
Not
See, I'm good for
Noel, but
something.
just you.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Okay. Committee, any other questions on this resolution? Because if not, I've got a couple. Okay, Bonnie, so the grant is for $105,000. We expend $98,000. We're only reimbursed for $91,000. Okay, I guess my question is, when we get these grants, okay, and it's been a long time since I've been a county employee, but I'm thinking back when I worked in one of the departments here, when we got a grant, it told us what we could expend the funds for. Okay, how did we expend $6,800 that we didn't get reimbursed for? Isn't there guidelines that we're supposed to be following? As far as expenditures and correspondingly reimbursement for those expenditures?
Right, so part of the grant where that money was from was buying equipment for, for lack of a better term, consumable goods for technical training and
Okay.
response, being like saw blades and you know, we do a lot of different cutting with different types of equipment, and included in that were a bunch of heavy-duty drill bits for drilling through concrete and other types of building materials, and from our understanding of it, they're saying that the grant was only gonna cover the saw blades and not the drill bits.
But no, isn't that specified right in the grant?
It was
What-
specified to buy cutting, you know, equipment, and.
Oh, it said cutting equipment. You read into it something that
And we
wasn't,
also bought, you know, other, you know, drill bit cutting equipment, and they didn't cover
okay,
that.
okay. And that sometimes happens.
Yeah, and
Okay. All right, and then I guess my last question is, okay, so $6,800 from the unassigned fund balance. Look, we have a healthy fund balance, but the reason we do is because we don't go to that unless we absolutely have to. Are there any other accounts that you have where we could reduce appropriations to offset this, the $6,800? And if you guys can't answer it, maybe Sam could help us out.
We can certainly ask Sam to come and help us, but I can tell you that when we wrote this resolution, Sam and I did discuss this at great length. I went through and I did not feel as if there was anywhere that we could take this from.
Your budget is pretty tight.
Our budget is pretty tight.
I
Okay.
do agree with that, Terry, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm in agreement too. If we move money from an expense line, we're just gonna be moving that money back at a later date later in the year.
Okay.
At least based on the trends of where we're seeing expenses currently.
Okay. All right, thanks, Sam. Okay, that's all I had. Anybody else? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next, proposed resolution, accept fiscal year 2021 hazmat grant for fiscal year 21 HM and amend OES 2024 budget.
So this is a grant, the 2021 hazmat grant. During COVID, they were unsure about this grant. So as soon as it became available, they determined it was available, we of course went and put in for it and were approved. So we are asking for the county exec to be able to execute the agreement, and we are also looking to add that into our equipment line and increase our revenue account.
It just wasn't included in the 2024 budget.
Until very recently, it was not available.
Okay.
And what our grant person, Dan, told me when I asked him specifically that question is that because of COVID, they were unsure if this grant was even going to be available. So
Okay.
once it did become available, we really wanted more. But apparently, this is what they feel our share is, and that's what they have agreed to give us.
Okay. All right, committee questions of Bonnie or Noel?
Is there will there be a 2022 or 2023 grant also?
There's-
22 is
Coming up
is coming up next, next resolution. And typically, these grants do seem to run
Okay.
behind. So it's a little, it's been a little confusing for me when we're in 24 talking
Yeah,
about
you're getting
21.
21 money.
So I think the answer is yes, the 23 and 24 grants will be further off, but yes, they will be coming.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next, proposed resolution, accept fiscal year 2022 hazmat grant for fiscal year 22 HM and amend OES 2024 budget.
This is, again, what Noel said, this is the same as the prior one, except for it is for fiscal year 2022.
And Mr. Neal, just to address the question you asked earlier, as far, these grants are usually very specific in orientation with what we're going for. So it's very easy to comply with what we're, usually these grants are written around some very specific items, so.
So we won't have anything
There won't be
denied on,
that
and,
confusion we talked about a few minutes ago.
Well,
okay,
we don't promise that, but that's our goal.
okay. As long as we're,
So you can get some drill bits on this one.
Yeah, I'll just buy those later.
okay. All right, folks, any questions on this one?
No.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, next, adoption of Chautauqua County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan.
So this has been kind of the culmination of a long project we've done. So I think it was, a year and a half, 2 years ago, we were awarded the hazard mitigation grant money through the state. And the hazard mitigation grant, what this is a collaborative effort between our office working with all the municipalities, cities, towns, and villages, and the county itself, here in Chautauqua County, to work to identify mitigation projects that may be eligible for funding in the future. And municipalities have to have this jurisdictional hazard plan in place to be eligible for certain types of funding. So, a lot of people in our office, a lot of people in the county are consultant, there's a lot of work that went into this. Essentially, for this plan to be adopted, and in true fashion, the state and FEMA both changed the manners in which this program was done, so we had one of the first in the state that got completed under the new parameters. It went to FEMA, it was approved at the FEMA site, and so we just need to get, essentially the first municipality that adopts it, it's kind of a weird thing, the first one that adopts it now makes the plan official for everyone to be able to use. So we were hoping that, since it's our plan, that we would, get that first adoption in, and the county would adopt it, so that everyone can start having this on plan. This isn't just to make sure, this isn't saying, okay, now we're gonna get grant money because of this, these projects municipalities put in for. This makes them eligible for that grant money to apply for it.
Okay, no, and this is something that we've had for quite a few years. and
Yes, it was
It's just updated every once in a while.
this project is every 5 years.
Okay.
Every 5 years, yeah, I'm sure you're probably intimately familiar with it on your end. But, every 5 years, we get the funding to do it, and it needs to be updated every 5 years, so.
Gotcha. Okay, committee questions?
Who was involved in making the plan?
Well, our office, basically representatives from every city, town, village, and county, DPF, municipality people, and we hired a consultant. The money basically went to hire a consultant to create the plan, which is a huge document.
It's 100 pages.
It's a large document. And then each municipality will have its own annex into that document. So, Silver Creek would have, this is what they say that their issues were, they want to address in that plan. It obviously will be a public-facing document that, we can get to anybody that needs to see it. But it was a very large collaborative effort. Our office, a couple people in our office specifically spent a lot of time on it. We and the consultants had a lot of meetings around the county, plus, like I said, every city, town, and village in the county was part of the process, and, working with our office and the consultant's office.
Thank you.
Terry? Jim?
Marty?
So this was the initial creation of the plan?
No, this was
This was an updated
yeah, this
five-year
plan has
update?
predated me for a while,
Oh,
so.
okay.
Every 5 years, the plan is redone.
Okay, oh, it's just redone, it's not,
Updated, redone,
Deleted,
It's not
and
recreated, it's just,
Okay.
Uh,
and it's an umbrella plan for every.
yeah. So each municipality says, we have a problem with flooding on Main Street, and we'd like, we feel it's a problem because of X, Y, Z.
Yeah,
And they identify that in a plan, and they say, if we have funding available, we would like to do this to mitigate that action. And each municipality was asked to identify what they've done, and from what I've been told in years past, several municipalities have received funding to correct those mitigation actions. But there is a requirement that they have this plan adopted in order to be eligible for certain funding, so that's the mainstay of it.
Marty, it looks like the plan was first prepared in the year 2000, and then it's just
Yeah.
updated after that.
Yeah.
yeah, I saw that.
So,
I saw that, and that's what I thought, but then you said something.
Yeah,
It
like I said.
sounded like you just
No, it wasn't definitely new, it was
Just
just redone. I do know the consultant we hired did do, obviously the lion's share of the work, and, with as many municipalities we have in the county, it was a large process to get done.
I think it was well over a year and a half,
Yeah.
maybe even close to two, of communication to get it.
Really,
to them.
2 years,
But,
so every 3 years you start, and
well, like I said, every municipality and the county itself was heavily involved in
Yeah.
working for their entity.
okay, anybody else? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, Noel and Bonnie, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll go back to resolution number 2. Authorize lease agreement with Erie 2 Chautauqua Cattaraugus BOCES at Philip J. Laguitas Educational Center.
You're rushing us. We weren't even down here yet.
We got to get to the discussion, Sheriff.
Sheriff Jim Quattrone from the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office. So this resolution is actually a
Who's she?
renewal.
Who's she?
Who's your friend?
She hasn't spoke yet.
You wouldn't let her.
Riley Enlow, fiscal supervisor.
She was ready to go.
I'm trying to get her
too.
home. This is a renewal with the Laguitas Educational Center where we have our Fredonia substation. As you can see, there's no rent charged, no utilities charged. It's kind of an opportunity for us to have school protection there, but it's also a very convenient location for us to have a substation.
Jim, we have a resource officer here, right?
We do have a school resource officer with BOCES. It's actually, he's split between Laguitas and the Hughes Center.
Okay.
So different days, he's at different locations.
So with these resolutions, he'll have a place to go to.
He can use that, but he's very seldom in that office because he's
okay.
around the
Alright.
grounds and has other spaces
Alright.
to use. The substation is for patrol, so we can,
Okay.
all of our patrol officers can use it during the day or throughout 24/7.
Gotcha. Committee, questions?
No, well, this came up yesterday. We were wondering what it was specifically used for, if it was, yeah, I didn't know if it was a substation or,
Yes, it's a substation. So we have a breathalyzer there.
Okay.
The Laguitas Center is a little larger. Not that it really gets used any differently than the others, but it's, we have a few desks in there, place for the deputies to do their paperwork and process arrests when needed.
Okay, anything else? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
can I ask a question? Are there educational, are we still doing anything with, are the classrooms, are there any education opportunities at BOCES through the sheriff's department?
As far as the
For high
deputies
school or-
teaching the students?
Yeah.
Yes, the school resource officer generally does that. And
Okay.
then we also have a partnership with BOCES that we're doing the Explorer program. So
Okay.
we are, and actually that's out of the combining or working along with the criminal justice instructor at the
Okay.
Hughes Center.
That's maybe what I'm thinking.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, let's see, we carried that. Next, authorize lease agreement with Erie 2 Chautauqua Cattaraugus BOCES at Hughes Educational Center.
So this is identical to the one with the exception that the space is a little smaller and it's at the Asheville BOCES or the Hughes Center. Likewise, we use this as our substation for the south end of the county. Again, centrally located, makes it convenient for the officers so they don't have to drive all the way back to Mayville to do paperwork and process.
Committee? No? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next, authorize lease agreement with Signet Communications, Inc. at Cherry Creek Cell Tower.
This is again, a tower that we've utilized for many years. It's been several years, I think Riley might know for sure.
We've had this lease since 1998. They've changed companies, names over time, but the lease has been going since 1998. Currently, we pay $12.50 a month, and we've been paying $12.50 since 2015. And they're asking for an increase starting March 31st of 2025, which is a $37.50 increase for all of 2025, and then 3% annually after. I feel like the increase is probably needed anyways. 2015 to 2024 is a long time without an
Sure.
increase.
Sure.
And it doesn't affect the 2024 budget because this is for March 31st, 2025 to March 30th, 2030.
Okay. Committee questions on this one?
I guess I'm not familiar with that, that cost seems high to me. Is it, or is that, and I'm unfamiliar with this type of a fee for something like this, so.
At a risk, I think it's actually low.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
for many.
But- well, this
That's,
is
that's
not
not
good.
for the record, Jim. No, I know. It's been what in the past, roughly the same,
$12.50 a month.
1250?
So, March 30th, 2025 is going up to
$150.
$1287.50.
So it's going up $37.
$37.50.
Yeah, that increase
So less
isn't,
than,
I think that is, it just seemed like a high number to me, but I have nothing to compare it to.
I don't believe so. I believe the one other lease that we have is like $900 a month. And I don't know if we own like all of the equipment on the tower or whatnot, but
so are we leasing equipment or are we leasing space on the tower?
Space.
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 Okay.
but our equipment's there, so
So
I mean,
Mhm.
I believe that their insurance would be the ones who pay if something was to damage our equipment. Am I correct, Todd? Yes. So I believe the
Okay.
the 1250, 1287.50 is probably good on our end, because if our equipment's damaged, it's gonna be a lot more.
Mhm.
And how long have we had this lease?
Since 1998.
1998. And it's been $12.50 since 2015.
2015. Prior to that, I don't believe that they charged us anything.
Oh.
And the lease I saw in 2015 started at $12.50.
Okay. Committee, any other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next, authorize agreement with Chautauqua Cattaraugus Erie 2 BOCES for culinary arts instruction 2024 to 2025.
This is a partnership we have with Erie Two BOCES, where our food services manager is working with, alongside BOCES, has developed a curriculum to work with the inmates, to hopefully prepare them better for getting out, being able to find employment. The BOCES pays the county $43,500 to offset the salary of our food services manager.
And this was budgeted on the 2024 budget, so no amendment is needed.
And we've had this for quite a while,
Yes.
ever since I can remember.
I can't tell you how long, but yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Jim. What were you
I
gonna say?
I had already prepared my fiscal manager for some of your questions. Or comments, maybe I should say.
It's a good program. We've had it for a long time.
Yeah.
So, okay.
On an
committee-
average, how many participate?
Oh,
It varies because it goes through the years, so it's difficult to say, and I say that because the incarcerated individuals are getting released, coming and going. So on any given day, basically we have incarcerated individuals that come down in the morning and serve, and there's usually, I think, 5. And then in the afternoon, we also have another 5. So not all of them are always participating. Some of them choose not to participate in the educational aspect of it. But they're helping us serve the meals, prepare the meals for the incarcerated individuals as well. So,
So all their training takes place right there?
right in the
They don't go to
kitchen.
BOCES at all?
No, none of them go there. And we're working closely with BOCES now with developing some other curriculums aside from the culinary services. So they've been a great partner to work with.
Phil's looking to come over and get a Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a quick question, is there maybe a plan in place to have like a certification at some point? Or they could be certified in
Yes.
like culinary art and?
Yes, and that's what we're working through there. I think it's, one of the things initially they're working on is I think it's called Safe Serve.
Yes.
And I think most of the employers, restaurants, like to see that, for their staff.
Yeah.
So that is one of our food services manager is, taking different courses so he can actually instruct that and administer the testing for it.
Good.
That's like the
That's a great
safe
idea.
handling of food and preparation, yeah.
I believe that's what it is. I just know it's a credential that the restaurants like, employers
Sure.
to have. I'm not sure exactly what the curriculum is.
So does their sentence have anything to do, the length of their sentence have any, because what if they're halfway through their training and their time to be released? I mean,
Yeah.
Does that happen?
That happens.
Okay.
And one of the things we are trying to work on is, and I'm not saying 100% with the culinary programs, but as we're starting to develop some of the trainings and educational programs through the Ignite program in the jail, we'd like to be able to have something so when they do get released, they could connect and continue following through with that training to complete it. So some of it is done on tablets, so they can actually log on, they can go to a library or what, on their home computer and complete some of the courses that way as well.
That'd be good if they could do that, Jim.
Yes.
Really. Okay, committee, anything else? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, last one for you guys. Authorize acceptance of New York State's Law Enforcement Technology LETEC program for fiscal year 2024, 2025.
This is a grant through New York State Division of Criminal Justice for the LETEC program. We were awarded $471,500 for the performance period of April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. We did not budget for this. We weren't really sure. This is the first time we applied for this grant. We weren't really sure if we were going to get it. We are looking at a budget amendment for the 2024 budget to equipment for $459,000 and contractual for $12,500. The contractual is software maintenance.
Okay.
And then to increase our revenue account in the grants budget for $471,500.
What's the equipment?
Okay, so there's 5, this is our application. We have 5 mobile or fixed surveillance cameras. That's estimated cost $15,000. Some license plate readers. We have 2 of those. Estimated cost is $44,000 total. Some software applications. I believe this is for the mobile CAD software that all the patrol has. That's $12,500. And then patrol vehicle equipment, so this is gonna be like PC, tablets, scanners, printers, and other items that they have in there, and that's 23 units at $400,000.
Some good stuff.
And there's no local share, so it's just something that,
That's
yeah.
Okay, Bob, anything else? Committee, any other questions? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, that takes care of our agenda, but under other, we do have a couple of items that, Jim, you're going to discuss with us?
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
so you're out of here. Okay, what, Jim, animal control officer or the cannabis? What first?
Well, we'll start with the animal control,
Okay,
so that's on my top. That's for Todd.
Oh, from Tom.
Yes.
Sorry, I've got to take off.
So I had sent the committee an email back last Tuesday, June 11th. The county, I think the county executive, Mr. Chagnon, and myself received a letter from a local municipality requesting that we pay for the vet services for euthanasia of a dog that was seized. Kind of go back several months ago, we received a bill from the same municipality asking to pay for some services based on the agricultural markets law. There, I'm not sure who interpreted it from the municipality that we were responsible for the boarding. I had a different interpretation, so did Mr. Thomas.
Was that for the cows, Jim, on that?
Well, there was
Or-
cows and dogs.
Cows and
it
dogs,
might even
okay.
been some other
right.
farm animals. But they were taken, the cows were taken to a local vet and treated. I know some of them died. I don't know, they may have all died, I'm not sure. But we got the bill. Mr. Thomas and I thought, working with the township, that we would pay that bill with the understanding that there was not going to be any further expenditure for that case. They agreed to it. I did talk to the town afterwards, after we got the second bill, and that's already been paid for. But what that brought to light, and we kind of knew this, is there, to our knowledge, are no animal control officers in Chautauqua County. We have dog control officers, which they have limited authority. They can enforce like licensing, leash laws, and like some local laws. But as far as neglect and animal cruelty, the dog control officers don't have any authority to do that enforcement. It has to be a peace officer or a police officer. So we've been looking at that. I've talked with some different agricultural organizations in the county. They are very supportive of having some type of animal control. I think the last animal control officer we had was several years ago, where the Chautauqua County Humane Society had a animal control officer, but because of cost, we're not able to maintain that. So we've worked closely with the Chautauqua County Humane Society as far as investigating. But these investigations can be lengthy and complicated. So, I wanted to kind of put it on your radar as far as what we can do to either partner with townships and municipalities, whether we maybe consider having a countywide animal control officer, or designate a deputy to be that animal control officer. I'm not sure what the best route, we're still looking into that. We did send one of our deputies to training in Albany. He got back, ironically, I wasn't sure when we were sending him. It was the day that I was emailed all of you, so it must have been appropriate that I was sending that. I talked to him today. There are a lot of things we couldn't be doing and probably we should be doing. And I think I put in the email to you, what I've seen over the years, the public support of programs like this, I think, is great. And sadly, sometimes we see victims, human victims, that aren't talked about or concerned about as much as when we see animals being abused. So, but I think we need to look at this and develop more of a plan. I think we're going to what we've seen. We have a grant now through Threat Assessment Management grant. That part of that is for training, and what we have seen is that many people who have been the school shooters and acts of violence, targeted acts of violence, have had backgrounds with animal cruelty. So we are looking at using some of that grant money to bring in somebody to do some training on animal cruelty, because I believe we can, there's a nexus and that we can tie that to that. But we would like to have a training not only for law enforcement, but for our dog control officers, and maybe even at the same time some of the town or municipalities, so they understand what the dog control officers can do versus what an animal control officer. So we're not getting confused or jammed up. Like when those farm animals were taken at the same time the dogs were taken, there should have been a warrant, and that should have been taken from the law enforcement. So there's some liability on both ends, from the dog control officer as well as from the deputy for doing that.
So, one question, Jim Fire, is he a dog control officer?
Yeah, Greg is a dog control officer.
See, I never, until today, a learning lesson for me, I didn't realize there were two separate positions.
Yeah, and what happens is I believe a lot of people don't understand that, and then they get frustrated. The dog control officer comes, and I've seen different, complaints, and heard about different complaints, especially with, Greg, well, he doesn't do anything with the cats. It specifies dog control, so,
See, I don't
and
know.
honestly, I think he does maybe a little bit more to help out, but, he does have limited, authority.
So, the Stark County Humane Society, is that a county agency?
It is not, it's a
It's not?
nonprofit,
Okay,
so they, are.
but we work with them.
We work with them because a lot of times they get the complaints, the director calls if they get a neglect complaint, they will call, our investigators, office, and then we assign somebody to it. Quite honestly, there's not a lot of proactive enforcement. And part of that is many of the deputies, many of the officers aren't sure what they look for. Just being able to tell is a dog, an animal neglected. I can use an example. In one of our townships, we've had several complaints about dogs being left outside, not being cared for, but the type of animal it is, the way it's being raised and treated, talking to veterinarians, everything's fine. But the person driving by sees that and gets upset because they think they're not, being left out. Under the Ag and Markets Law, it outlines what a appropriate shelter is. Sometimes people don't agree with that, but the law is the law, and, it outlines exactly what that appropriate shelter is.
So there are 27 towns in the county. Are there 27 dog control officers, or?
I believe every township is required to have a dog control.
If they issue licenses.
Yes.
Which they probably do
Yeah,
issue licenses.
but, so I'm not 100% certain if there's that many DCOs. I
But
just,
But not one animal control
I don't
officer.
believe there's any animal control officers.
Hmm.
So, and then, I'm not real familiar, but there was some legislation a while back. Some townships are actually now building their own kennels
Yeah,
to
that's-
house.
That was my question, because isn't there new,
There is, and I don't know enough about that because I'm not involved, but one of our staff members is also a town supervisor, and I know they're in the process. I think they're gonna share a shelter with a neighboring township. So, there's different agreements. The city of Jamestown has different places if they come across, a stray dog, where they can actually shelter them. I think they have keys to get the dogs in there. We really, in the county, we rely on the DCOs with the dogs, but with the animals, other animals or cruelty cases, we are sometimes struggling to find out where can we house them. And again, we work closely with the Humane Society. We're fortunate to have a state vet that lives in the Faulkner area that we can reach out to, and she's always willing to offer help. And most of the veterinarians that we've ever reached out to are often willing to give advice. And so our goal is to have this training, to utilize the state vet or somebody from the state vet to come teach, what to look for with the neglect and with the different animals. And then at some point, really have to, I think we need to explore animal control or at least training for officers. Problem is if they don't, if we have 25 officers in, we could have 25 cruelty cases, but if we have 25 different officers taking it, how, it'd be nice to have people who are dedicated, say, they're trained, they're gonna understand, they're gonna continue to do that. I'm sure when I went to the academy, we probably covered something about animal cruelty. I have no idea what it was. So, what I know about it is what we've researched over the last, several years, taking calls and then, trying to struggle through reading the Ag Marks Law, trying to understand what it's saying, interpret it and work with different individuals.
So what's the contact for, if you do know of someone abuse on an animal, not a dog? I mean, who do you call without an animal control officer?
Law enforcement.
Jamestown Police, County Sheriff, doesn't matter?
Correct. Wherever you are, that's the start, and that usually is the start. Some people do call the Stockton Humane Society, and that's when they would contact us or whatever the local, the jurisdiction is.
was the confusion over the other town where we're paying for that? The fact that the sheriff's office called the local
Yeah,
dog control
so,
officer?
so I will say, my frustration with that is the deputy did call the dog control officer. The dog control officer had talked to the complainant initially and told the complainant to call the sheriff's office so they would call her and then she would come and get the animals. Okay, the Ag and Marks law specifies, if it's a law enforcement, I explain, if I were to arrest you, Mr. Proctor, driving down the road and you had your dog in the car and there was no place for the dog, and then I called, I have to make arrangements to have that dog housed. Okay, then it's on the county. But in this case, there's some processes, quite honestly, before the dogs had been taken, courts should have been involved, the DA's office could have been involved. There's some steps, but quite honestly, I don't fault the dog control officer because I don't know that they understand, they've had that training. I don't know how much training a dog control officer gets before they're put out there,
Don't think much.
so.
Okay, committee, any other questions on this subject? Jim, I've got just one question. So the Humane Society, is there just one Humane Society for the county? There's not a North County or in South County? The reason I'm asking is because I don't know. Years ago, when we wrote that Animal Cruelty Act,
The law, yes.
okay, the guy I dealt with was from North County, but I'm not sure if there's a Humane Society in the southern part of the county or not.
There is one in the southern part of the county.
There
It's-
is.
It's on Strunk Road, Stock County Humane Society. I'm looking at Mr. Benkowski being from the north. There's something in Dunkirk, but I'm not exactly sure
Yeah, I'm not either.
what that is there, if it's,
I know that there's a Northern Chautauqua Canine Rescue, but
Yeah.
that's not.
that's something different. There's
Yeah,
something in
yeah,
Dunkirk.
I mean, it doesn't have the affiliation
Yeah, it's
Oh.
of the
owned by
Humane Society, but it's.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess where I'm going with this is, so at one time, there was an animal control officer that somebody had, the Humane Society or
Yes,
whatever?
I believe he worked out of the one on, well, I don't know if it was on Strunk Road at that time, but
Wherever,
One of Dunkirk's Lake Shore Humane Society.
there you go. Okay.
okay. So you've had conversations with them. Do they have any prospects for reestablishing an animal control officer in the future, or no?
I just want to make sure, I have not had conversations with them
Specifically on this?
specifically about
Okay.
this recently. Our conversations, and I haven't had conversations, but when they get a complaint, they call the sheriff's office. So we haven't talked, I haven't specifically talked if they have an intent. I know they discontinued that because of cost.
Sure.
And, they were, back at that time, I believe they were being overrun, the number of animals coming in, that they had to focus on what they were getting in and the cost involved there. So I have not talked to the executive director recently.
Okay, and I think you're right, Jim. I think we have to have some of our officers trained as far as animal control things there. But before we actually establish an animal control officer through the county or through the sheriff's department, I think we need to explore other options before we do that. That's just my opinion.
And I'm not opposed to that. I think part of the reason I sent you all the email
It's for
is to get
discussion.
well, discussion and
For
also get
discussion.
assistance. I mean,
Sure.
to have you at least get it on your radar, to
It-
be
it's-
thinking about it. You have contacts out in your communities, and hopefully that's something we can start getting the word out there, exploring it. I do believe it's needed, and so we'll work with the humane societies, some of the agricultural community. And I apologize because I always forget the names of them. But one's the Farm Bureau, but there's the Beef Growers Association. So that could be the wrong name for it.
Whatever.
Ted Card is in charge of that. I know, and I've talked with Ted about it. I do think that's the name
It's
of it.
just funny.
So, and if
Okay.
Ted's listening to this, he's probably gonna harass me, but,
Well,
but it's,
you've just offended all the vegans, but that's okay.
well, I'm
uh,
hoping we're supporting them. I think we don't want the animals harmed. But I think, perhaps we can get some stakeholders together from the Humane Society, these different organizations, Mr. Nebel as the Public Safety Chair,
County executive, legislative chairman and stuff. I agree, Jim. I think it's a problem. We need to be thinking about it. We'll have to address it. And if we have to fund something in the future, we just need to be thinking about how best to fund it and where the funds will come.
I will make an attempt to convene a meeting during the county fair week. It might be, we'll have a lot of people there.
Oh, yeah.
And we
That-
can take some comments and
That's a good idea.
maybe get our
Sure.
legislatures to come visit the county fair that week.
There you go.
So,
Send me the invite.
okay.
He'll come to anything. Okay, let's see, is that it, Jim, on?
That's it
animal
on the-
Okay. But you also wanted to discuss the cannabis
Yes, I'm sorry.
enforcement?
Yes, can I have one of those? Big, I won't be able to talk. As we know that a couple years ago, New York State legalized cannabis or marijuana. Recently, there's been legislation passed. While the state is still struggling to figure out a way to open up dispensaries, we have been seeing around, not in Chautauqua County, but around the state, some illegal dispensaries opened up. And so they're not licensed, they're not permitted to be selling. But there was lack of authority on local law enforcement to enforce that. So anytime we would have to contact the Office of Cannabis Management to get that enforced. Recent legislation, and a lot of it's outlined in this packet that I handed you, or actually that Mr. Proctor handed you. There is a section in there, and I'm trying to find the page, that allows for the counties to pass a local law that would allow us to do the enforcement, the civil enforcement.
131, I think, section 131. Does that?
I would say
But-
page 17 of this handout that I gave you.
Oh.
Talks about the county and city authority. But it is under section 131, I think subsection G. But it just, again, we'll probably have to talk to our law department to make sure there's certain, the one-page handout that I gave you is from our legal counsel with the State Sheriff's Association that mentions the requirements that we would have, if we pass local legislation, that would need to be included. So I'll be sharing that with the county attorney's office. It's just, again, something that this really doesn't have anything to do with the illegal sales. It has more to do with the license and the civil nature of this. Again, still, if there's illegal sales going on, not at dispensaries, clandestine type stuff.
Is the
we're
state
gonna still-
close to issuing licenses?
I can't answer that, just because I don't know. They've struggled.
It's not very many.
I'll say I think they're closer now than they were yesterday,
Well,
but,
the growers are all out there growing, but they don't have no market for it.
right. So,
I think they're issuing them, they're just not very many, and
yeah, very
Very
few, and that's
fast.
partly because they've had some legal challenges,
From
the
big-
way they were distributing the initial licenses. I think this new legislation has tried to rectify some of that. Not just the section on passing the local law, but there's some other things in there in the legislation that they're trying to be able to get the licenses issued. And as you mentioned, the growers, I think they're the ones that are losing out now because they've spent a lot of money to get their crops
Well,
going.
did the state owe the growers some money, like 124 million?
I think the
Because they
state,
had
I
no-
don't know if that passed or
No
not.
market for their product.
Yeah, I don't know if that legislation passed, Mr. Landy. They did, I know there was a proposal, to help offset some of the losses from the growers, but I'm not sure where that.
Yeah, the rollout from the state on this has been terrible.
Yeah, that's,
So, okay. So Jim, you're going to, I guess, be in touch with the
I,
law department?
I did share this,
and-
we did hand this handout to Mr. Thomas, and I will reach out to them to,
Okay.
I don't know if there's a deadline on when they would have to pass that legislation, local legislation, so.
Didn't give him
Okay.
this, though.
And it,
I will email that to him. Actually, I might have already emailed. I usually, just, you know, Mr. Proctor mentioned I didn't give him the one page, Mr. Thomas, and I can't speak for the new county attorney because I haven't worked with her close enough, but I know Mr. Thomas and previous, county attorneys have worked closely with the state,
okay.
Sheriff's Association attorneys, just because that's all they focus on. And happily can say that they're usually on the same page and work well together.
Yeah, it looks like the county executive is on board too.
Correct.
Jim, so, look, why don't you get with the law department, talk to PJ, and then if, if you or somebody wants to draft something, then maybe get it to us in the the legislature, and we'll take a look at it. But, yeah, this too is a problem, and it needs to be addressed.
Okay.
So, okay. Committee, anything else on the cannabis law enforcement?
I know we're about out of time, but I was the landlord responsibilities for, that's really going down a rabbit hole, I think. Yeah, that part of it.
Space to someone.
So if you have you rent to someone, they have a business and they're illegally selling, and it's held accountable, it sounds.
Right.
That's-
So,
Well, yeah, we could,
I would have to think, yeah, that's, again, that's state, this legislation has been enacted, so, there's no, waiting period, like some of the legislation that's been passed, so this is in place. So the landlord responsibilities, that's, all these laws can be enforced now, it's just a matter of who enforces them. So the Office of Cannabis Management has investigators, kind of like the Liquor Authority has investigators. Quite honestly, I'm not sure how often Chautauqua County will see any of those investigators. They're few and far between for the Liquor Authority, and I'm anticipating that's gonna be the same with the Office of Cannabis Management.
Okay, committee, anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, committee. Thanks, Jim.
No, never mind.
Because you've been up there for the last half hour.
Deer about 2 winters ago. Oh, yeah, that's. Greg was right. Yeah, so I seen Greg, I said, hey,